What is going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Braze, and we're not going to be doing an Outriders video. We're actually going to be doing something completely different. We're actually going to be looking at some gun guides for Battlefield 2042. Now, I understand it's got a bit of a rocky start, but I'm absolutely enjoying my time in Battlefield 2042. The weapon bloom is the only thing that's really put me off the game so far, but they have made some improvements to that since the game is released, and it is a lot of fun, and it's such chaotic. I'm glad to be back in some kind of modernish kind of time with Battlefield. So what we wanted to do is get some gun stats to put together for you. We wanted to be able to put some guides together so you can understand how good the gun can actually be, what kind of stats, what kind of attachments, what they actually do to the gun, and then take it from there so you can make your best informed decisions when it comes to actually using the gun out in the battlefield. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first gun guide that we're going to be looking at is the M5A3, and the M5A3 is basically your run-of-the-mill kind of bog standard assault rifle. This is the one that you kind of pick up because you like the assault rifle kind of class, and it literally is just straight down the middle. It's very simple when it comes to stats, but it has so many attachments that are able to change any of the figures, so we've got all of them broken down for you in this guide. So when we actually have a look at the gun guide itself and what the game says, don't take that too personally or anything like that. It actually, the figures that I've got tend to actually lie a little bit, and I've actually got some different figures from what it currently says on the card. So and these are tested inside the game, so these are going to be the figures that I've got are going to be more realistic to what you're actually going to be facing when you actually play the game. But if we had a look at the stats that it suggests to us, we've got a firepower of 50, an accuracy of 50, a range of 50, a handling of 50, and a rate of fire of 750. When it comes to the magazine size, this is 30 at standard, but it does actually change a little bit depending on your magazine attachment as well. And we've got full auto, single fire, zoom level of 1.25. So, like I said, take that up, but I did get a different rate of fire when it came to my testing. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at a few of the basic stats, and then we'll get into the more in-depth kind of side of things, obviously a little bit later on. So let's kick it off. Let's go for something a little bit simple, and that's your aim down sight time. And it's pretty much standard across all of the magazines. You don't need to worry about any of your aim down sight times being affected or anything like that when it comes to the attachments. And that's going to be a 270 millisecond standard. So you're always going to be aiming. That's kind of quick. That's kind of on the fast side. If you've ever come from I know it's kind of taboo to be able to mention this, but if you've ever come from like Call of Duty, for example, 270 milliseconds is going to be between your SMG and your assault rifle range. So you're going to get a really nice, snappy kind of aim down sights time. And you'll notice this is actually quite nice compared to some of the other assault rifles that we're going to be covering. But we'll be covering those in the guides, but this is going to be the one that we're going to base the other ones off of. This is, like I said, your middle of the pack, middle of the road. So aim down sight is nice and simple at 270 milliseconds. Now, if we were going to go into damage next, because everyone kind of really wants to know about the damage when it comes to a gun, and if it's actually worth picking up, is it worth actually taking out into the field, how much damage am I actually doing, time to kill, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to group these a few at a time, because some of the magazine attachments don't affect your damage, whereas others do. So when we look at the standard mag, the close combat, the subsonic rounds, the extended mag, and the high power magazines, these do not affect your actual damage. So you're going to be getting a flat, it's a 3-stage damage fall off. So up to 20 meters, you'll be seeing a damage per hit of 22. 21 meters to 49 meters, you're seeing it go down to 18, and then at 50 meters onwards, it would always be 15 damage after that. Now, you do have a headshot multiplier of 2 times, which means that obviously we're going to be multiplying that across the board for every single one of those damage ranges. So you'll be looking at a 44, 36, 30, and what this means is basically is 1 less shot to kill every single time that you hit the head, which is quite nice. When it comes to other parts of the body as well, there are no other damage multipliers as far as I can tell, so you will be dealing that flat damage of 22, 18, 15, regardless of if you hit the chest, you hit the finger, you hit the toe. So it's going to be that nice and simple. Now, when it comes to the armor-piercing rounds, now these do mention that they actually reduce your damage, or they reduce your damage range. So what I found that this actually does, instead of actually affecting the ranges, it actually affects your damage. So instead of doing 22, 18, 15, you're at the exact same ranges, you're now doing 18, 15, 13. And this actually does affect pretty much every single one of the ranges to kill, which means that you're actually dealing what you need one extra shot to be able to kill. So when it comes to armor piercing, I would kind of steer clear of these for when it comes to doing your standard infantry fights, but they are supposed to be quite good when it comes to taking on vehicles. When it comes to armor piercing, I'm going to do a separate video on this, and I'll categorize every single weapon that's in that, so you can actually have a comparison to be able to see which guns are actually worthwhile running armor piercing. So the next important stat for us to look at would be rate of fire, because rate of fire tied in with our damage gives us our time to kill to be able to see how good of a gun is at being able to kill, how effective it can actually be, and actually take it into the battlefield. So what I did was, I've managed to test this several times over. There may be some slight inconsistencies when it comes to frame rounding, because the amount of ammo that's inside of each of the magazines does actually differ. So we definitely can see that, especially when we start seeing the smaller magazines, because we've got less data to be able to get a nice average over when it comes to the frames. So there may be a case that it is all around about the exact same RPM, but I've based it on my findings, so we can actually take the time to kill from that. So when it came to the first standard magazine, I got this out at 775 rounds per minute, so it's a little bit faster than what it currently states on the card at 750. When it came to the close combat, even though this actually does advise of the rate of fire actually going up, it does actually come to a very nice 840 rounds per minute, so better in close quarter combat compared to obviously your standard magazine as well. When it came to the high power, we're looking at around about 787 rounds per minute. That one could be a frame rounding. Like I said, the high power actually does go down a little bit with mag size, so there's definitely every single chance that could be the case. So that could be around about 775 as well, but we're still basing my figures off of that. Subsonic, that came out at around about 788 rounds per minute as well. When it came to the armor piercing, this came bang on 750. So that one I'm going to say is very accurate to the actual playing card that we get to see when it comes to selecting the weapon. And the extended mag somehow managed to get a higher rate of fire than the standard mag that we get. That's 785. So that could be down to frame rounding again. Like I said, we're probably looking at around about 10 rounds per minute. Due to frame rounding anyway, so it could be around about the same for that, but like I said, every single one of these figures is actually based on the rate of fire that I actually managed to get in game, and that's just the most accurate way that I was able to portray this. So currently it's all looking good, we've got all the data that we want for the damage, but obviously each player has 100 health unless they're wearing armor, so how many shots to kill are we looking at, and basically what's the time to kill. So when it comes to pretty much all the mags apart from the armor piercing, we are looking at a 5, 6 or 7 shot kill. When it comes to the time to kill, they're all roughly around about the same, apart from the armor piercing and apart from the close combat as well. So when it, like I said, this could be down to frame rounding, but pretty much the standard, the subsonic, the extended mag, the high power all come in at around about 305 to 310 milliseconds to kill. I'm going to group them all together because, like I said, that could be down to frame rounding, but that's pretty much the time difference that we're looking at. When it comes to the close combat, this comes in at a very respectable 286 milliseconds in the close range, and it just beats every single magazine in terms of time to kill at any distance, just because it has that higher rate of fire. Now, obviously, it does have a few other drawbacks to it, like increased recoil or slower bullet velocity, but we'll get into those a little bit later on. And then when it comes to the armor piercing, because this instead of it being a 5, 6 or 7 shot, it's now a 6, 7 or 8 shot, because it's managed to drop back a little bit when it comes to the damage profile, and this means that we're looking at a time to kill of either 400 milliseconds, 480 milliseconds or 560 milliseconds. So very, very slow. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the armor piercing at all when it comes to any kind of like combat. That's very slow compared to pretty much most of the guns that are actually in this game. Now, it's not just magazines that we've got to take into consideration for this, we also do have barrels. There's a lot of customization when it comes to Battlefield 2042, and it just allows you to be able to customize your gun to, obviously, any kind of degree of any kind of like scenario that you're going to pretty much face. So when it comes to the M5, we have 3 barrels to be able to choose from. We have the standard, we have the close range, and we have the long range barrel. Now, when it comes to the standard barrel, like I said, this does not affect the rounds per minute. This is 775. This was all tested when it came to the standard magazine as well. So 775 rounds per minute, and it has a bullet velocity of 870 meters per second. Quite respectable, but you're not going to want to challenge too many like snipers at range with this. But it definitely can be done a little bit. When it came to the smaller barrel, the close quarters one, it did have a faster rounds per second or rounds per minute. This came out at 900, so you actually got a nice 16% boost when it came to using that barrel, when it came to your fire rate. But when it came to your bullet velocity, this hit it hard, and you're now operating around about 70% of your bullet velocity, so you're down to 606 meters per second. Very harsh on that, so you're not really going to be wanting to touch, reach out and touch many people with this barrel. It is pretty much designed to be able to use just indoors, and that's pretty much it. When it came to the long range barrel, though, it's kind of interesting. It doesn't have as many kind of positives as I initially thought it would do. It does drop your rounds per minute down by around about 15% to about 664 rounds per minute. And then when it came to your bullet velocity, I was expecting more from this, but it only seemed to put it up to 910, which is like less than 5% increase. So when it comes to a long barrel, it's not necessarily worth it, especially not for the decrease in your rate of fire. The close combat is pretty much just designed just for that. It's pretty good at obviously taking on the enemies that are quite close, but most of the time I will stick with the standard barrel and just put on something like a muzzle brake or any of those kind of attachments instead, and just pretty much rock those. There is one last detail that we kind of need to cover, and obviously this will be the top of your plus system, which will be your sights. Now, when it came to sights, some of them do mention about hurting your aim down sight speed, and some of them don't. And most of like the close quarters ones, all that kind of thing, those don't affect you. The only sight that haven't been able to unlock, and that's because you have to get, I think it's 100 or 150 kills over 100 meters with the M5, which, let's be honest, is nigh on impossible, is the M22 3.5 times sight. So I haven't been able to unlock that one just yet. I haven't been able to grab any kind of stats, but I am expecting that to increase your aim down sights. When it comes to like your aim down sights or most of the sights, every single one of the close quarters ones, with the exception of the UH1 Smart, will not affect your aim down sights. So we're talking iron sights, we're talking K8 Hollow, we're talking Fusion Hollow, BR Hollow, XDR Hollow, Ghost Hybrid, which was quite interesting because that has the multi-zoom, so the 1.25 to 2.5 times multiply. We've got the Mall Hybrid, which, if I remember right, is the 1.5 to 3 times. We have the TV2X, which all of those do not affect your aim down sights. They're all consistent with 270 milliseconds when it comes to aiming down your sight and actually being perfectly accurate. When it comes to the UH1 Smart, this does add on 60 milliseconds onto your aim down sight, so you're now aiming at 330 milliseconds, and this pulls perfectly in line with the Shan 2.5 times and the Bravo 3 times as well. So you're getting a little bit of like extra info in terms of like range and all that kind of thing, but when you're not getting any kind of additional kind of like magnification or anything to be able to hit your shots at a little bit of an extra range. So most of the time I will steer clear of the UH1 Smart, and I'll stick with one of the hollow sights if I'm planning to use it a bit more close quarters. When it comes to the further ranges, so we're looking at the Raven 4 times, this comes in at 430 milliseconds, so that affects it by 160 milliseconds. And then when it came to the M11 6 times, this pretty much doubles your aim down sights time. You're now looking at around about 530 milliseconds just to be able to aim the gun. I would highly recommend that you steer clear of the sniper barrel. None of the barrels, none of the magazine attachments really cater this to a long range playstyle. So it just does not feel like a really worthwhile attachment to be able to go for that kind of sniper rifle scope, especially if with all the glints that comes off from sniper scopes as well. So yeah, so I'd steer clear from those, but when it comes to pretty much the other sights, anywhere between the irons to the 3 times, you're absolutely fine. It's not going to affect your aim down sights too much. Feel free to put whatever one of those sights you want on top of your gun. So there's one type of attachment that I have left out so far, and that's suppressors. And the reason why I've done this is, one, because I need a little bit more testing. I need a little bit more time to be able to put this all together. But two, I need to see how they kind of behave. I need to be able to... I know so far that instead of it actually affecting your damage range, it actually does affect your damage as a whole. So what it will do is it will take your current damage profile. So for example, in the M5, we're looking at 22, 18, 15, and what it will do is it will end up knocking a couple of points off pretty much every single range. So you'll potentially be hitting 20, 16, 14. Now, I do need to do a little bit more testing on that. Please don't take that to like as concrete or anything like that. That's just purely my guess so far, just based on like a little bit of limited testing so far. But I will be doing a separate episode covering how suppressors affect every single gun in the whole game, but I would highly recommend that you steer clear from suppressors just purely because they will affect your time to kill. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, make sure you take that one little piece of information away and just steer clear from suppressors for the M5. Overall, I think that the M5 does cover a great mid-range kind of weapon, and it's more to close to mid anyway. When it comes to the versatility of what the M5 can actually do, it's such a good platform that it has pretty much every single magazine you could potentially ask for. It's got all the underbarrels that you could potentially ask for when it comes to like grips, comes to grenade launchers, comes to flashlights, comes to laser sights, all that kind of thing. You've got the full selection of sights that you could possibly ever want as well, and then you've got basically every single muzzle attachment that's actually available in the game. It is the perfect platform to be able to take up. It's the perfect beginner's rifle, and it doesn't kick too much, so you are able to be able to control the recoil. Now I have got like a couple of recoil plots showing in the background. I will actually cover those a little bit better because I realised that my current testing is not necessarily the best place to actually go and do this, so I will actually try and but just know that it will pull up and to the right, and it will pull up and to the right quite steadily. If you are able to mix in one headshot, like I said, it will decrease your time to kill at every single range by one single shot, and this actually takes it from like a standard 310 milliseconds down to a 232, which is very, very fast, very, very respectable in this kind of game. And from some of the testing I've seen so far, when it comes to like for example the AK, which is going to be another episode, that definitely competes then, and it actually does outperform the AK in that kind of regard. So always try to mix at least one headshot in. It definitely has the recoil plot to be able to kind of like handle that, but yeah, just know that the M5 is very reliable. You can take it out in pretty much every single situation, every single scenario, and you can pretty much cater it to everything that you could potentially find. I will actually apologise for the gameplay that's in the background when it comes to I haven't been able to get too much time on in the servers to be able to grab some like normal footage, so you're gonna have to excuse the fact that I am obviously playing with bots. I just want to show off the gun, I want to do that, and I want to bring this first episode out to you. Going forward, I will actually be trying to show some nice gameplay of actually using the guns inside of a proper multiplayer kind of scenario and kind of environment, but you're gonna have to give me a break on the first one, just due to time constraints and all that kind of thing. But hopefully you've learned something useful with this, and hopefully this will actually affect your decisions when it comes to using the M5 in Battlefield. Now, I do want to finish off the video as well by actually dropping a separate note onto here. Now, I do know that it is pretty much taboo to be able to mention Call of Duty in any kind of like Battlefield environment, in any kind of like Battlefield kind of video, content, anything like that. I understand that, but I do understand as well that JGod has done such a good job when it comes to Call of Duty Warzone, and being able to put all that information together to be able to put out to the player base in the form of a spreadsheet, so you can actually see which guns perform well, and be able to, you know, you can make your own informed decisions, and it also helps out the player base as well. So I'm taking it upon myself to be able to do the exact same thing here. What I've already started the workings on. In fact, here you go. Here's the screenshot of the M5 guide so far. I will apologise if the image quality is a bit hard to be able to make out. It is just such a lot of information to be able to keep on a single spreadsheet, and I'm going to be doing this for pretty much every single gun that's in the game. I'm going to be testing out what damage ranges. There's going to be a really interesting one for the LCMG. I can't say too much because obviously there will be a separate gun guide for it, but just know that it's got certain attachments that behave differently to every single other gun that I've tested so far, so make sure you keep an eye out for that one. But as soon as I've got this spreadsheet fully populated, as soon as I've got this all put together, ready to issue out to the public, I will make it free, I will make it available. Just, you know, feel free to take it and feel free to be able to make your own informed decisions about it. I've done the hard work so that you don't really have to, and obviously we can all have a good time in Battlefield to be able to see what are the best guns to be able to perform well. So that pretty much just gives us the time to be able to wrap this all up and just say thank you so much for being able to watch all the way to the end. If this is the kind of content that you're interested in being able to watch, please make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and even just, you know, just drop us a comment just to let us know that this is something that you've been looking forward to. I couldn't find anything quite like this out there in the market, and I really do hope that the amount of time and the amount of hard work I've managed to put into this to be able to find out all these stats really does pay off, and it's something that you're actually interested in. Like I said, just let us know, and if you have any kind of questions, feel free to ask there, and I will quite happily go through and I'll be able to answer anything that you can really throw my way. Massive shout out to obviously all the Babylonian family. Their names will be appearing at the end of the video like they always do. If you're interested in being able to support us as a channel and you want to get your name at the end of every single video, make sure you just click that join button that's found right next to the subscribe. It literally starts from 99p a month, and it really does go straight back into the channel. It goes straight back into the community, and you know, it's just a nice way for us to be able to organise competitions, give back to you, all that kind of good stuff. So so massive thank you to everyone that's already signed up, and if you're interested and you start looking, thank you to you as well. That just pretty much leaves me to say keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you all on our next video.